أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الشهر الحرام بالشهر الحرام والحرمات قصاص، فمن اعتدى عليكم فاعتدوا عليه بمثل ما اعتدى عليكم، واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين. وأنفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين. صدق الله العظيم. As we mentioned yesterday, that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, in the 7th year of Hijrah, when they were going to do the Umratul Qadha, now in the previous year in 6th they were denied access into Mecca. So now in 7th year of Hijrah, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are going to Mecca Mukarramah to perform their Umrah now with the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they feared that the Meccans would try to stop them, and this would lead to war and to fighting. And this was Dhul Qa'dah. This would be the month of Dhul Qa'dah, which is from the Ashhurul Huram, from the sacred months, from the 4 sacred months, which he said Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, and Rajab. So out of these 4 months are the sacred months of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they feared that, and fighting is not obviously allowed in these months. Even before Islam, the Arab used to consider these months to be sanctified, as is part of the Millah Ibrahimiyah. So the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were worried about this, that what would happen if it came down to some conflict. That's a month, it's a sacred month, how would we be able to retaliate? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 194, once again this is stressed, that ash-shahrul haram bish-shahril haram, that if they do not uphold the sanctity of the month, then you also do not have to uphold it, in the sense that you can also defend and retaliate. Ash-shahrul haram bish-shahril haram, that a sacred month is in lieu of a sacred month, meaning that if they are not fulfilling or they are not upholding the sacredness of this month, that doesn't mean to say that you will have to throw your hands up and let them walk over you. Rather, you can defend yourself, and you will have to also retaliate. الشهر الحرام بالشهر الحرام والحرمات قصاص, that the law of qisas, which we did before, the qisas literally meaning equality, that equality is observed when it comes to those sacred months and those sacred aspects as well. وَالْحُرُمَاتُ قِصَاص. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ, whoever transgresses against you. Now this part of the ayah, this isn't specific to fighting or qital necessarily, but rather the generality of it is intended, and it is practiced upon by the ummah. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ, whoever transgresses against you. فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ, then the person is also allowed to retaliate to that same amount. So say for example, a person steals someone's money and destroys it, they throw it away for example, or they damage someone's property. So that much claim can be done to take from the other person as well. So if someone has done $1,000 of damages, then the other person can say that you have to owe me $1,000, and the court will rule in that person's favor, obviously if they prove it to be. So that's فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى, that there is a rule of equality. Yes, if a person wants, the brother, I forgive you, then no problem, you don't have to pay him back, that's a separate issue. But what is a person's right? That you can take back whatever a person has done against you. And this also goes as far as jinayat and crimes are also concerned. That for example, someone cuts off the finger of another person. So in the books of fiqh they have that person also has a right, that through the court obviously, that they will also be able to retaliate in the same manner. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ. So this is the rule of equality. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and you have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How in this aspect? That if a person did something to you or damages upon your property worth $1,000, now it's part of the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you cannot retaliate and say that I'm going to damage more than that, that I'll take back $2,000, or I'll take double of that, or if you hit me once, I'm going to hit you twice. for example. So this would be impermissible, and this is not part of the having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in every aspect, yani deen Islam, we understand that where you have ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you worship in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the end of the day, these are human beings who also get into problems and fights. So does Islam have an answer to that? Do we have a certain system for that? Definitely. And this is the basis of it, that's based on equality. فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ. But in that, what is also important is the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. So this is a different paradigm of showing the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's not limited. Now see where the ayah of taqwa over here is mentioned, that taqwa is not limited to the masjid, the taqwa is not limited to your salah and sawm and zakah, but taqwa also has effects in different aspects of a person's life. For example, the famous ayah of وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا, that whoever has the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes an opening for him, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a person rizq from places where a person does not even consider. Which ayah is this mentioned in? Which surah is this mentioned in? This is mentioned in Surah Al-Talaq, where the ayat of talaq are being, the ahkam of talaq are there. So there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one ishara, one indication, the mufassirun point out that one of the arenas of taqwa, or a place where a person needs to adopt and show one's taqwa, and that is the real test of taqwa, is in your social dealings. How does a person deal in such situations also? So وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That this is also a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is also a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sense that they know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with those that have taqwa. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, have the taqwa of Allah, وَاعْلَمُوا, and know أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the muttaqeen, those that adopt taqwa. وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, continuing with another hukum, command of jihad, the وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that they need to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fi sabilillah. This was for the Sahaba radiallahu anhum at that time. It referred to the ghazwa, to the battles that they were engaging in, and it was revealed at that time. But the words of the Quran Kareem, fi sabilillah, are also, you can make amal, practice upon the generality of it. The fi sabilillah will be those things which help in the cause of Islam. Immediately after this hukum of infaq fi sabilillah, spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this part, that لا تلقوا ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة. Do not throw yourselves into destruction. Do not throw yourselves into destruction. Once Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu, he was in a campaign with the other tabi'un. Once the other tabi'un, those that followed the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, their students who hadn't seen Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the second generation, we call the tabi'un. So Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu, perhaps with other Sahaba, was with a group of tabi'un, and they were in a campaign. So during this campaign, they see one person, and he flings himself into the thick of the enemy. So all the people around Abu Ayyub Ansari, radiallahu anhu, they start saying that, look at this person. That doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that لا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة, that do not throw yourself into destruction. So Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu turns to these tabi'un, and he tells them that this is not the meaning of the ayah of the Quran Kareem. Rather, he says that this ayah was revealed regarding us, the Ansari Sahaba. That what had happened, that after some time, after Fathu Makkah, that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, some of them, some Ansari Sahaba, for example, who had their gardens and they had farms, they said that let's take a little break right now from going out in campaigns, from jihad, and from uplifting the kalimah la ilaha illallah. Let's take a little break for some time. Let's take a break for a time and turn our attention towards our farms and gardens, and kind of just do this for a little bit. So Abu Ayyub Ansari says that upon this idea that some Sahaba, some Ansari Sahaba had, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these ayat. The anfiqu fi sabilillah, the spend in the path of Allah, and obviously also go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, do not throw yourselves into destruction, by not engaging fi sabilillah. So Abu Ayyub Ansari says that this is the meaning of the ayah of the Quran Kareem. So that is one aspect of fi sabilillah, where it applies, when it applies. However, the generality, as we said, of the ayah of the Quran Kareem also applies to us in every day and age also, that whichever fi sabilillah that is there present to us, as far as uplifting the kalima la ilaha illallah and spreading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spreading the deen and establishing it, for example in this country, then we should also keep this ayah in mind. That person should spend, and immediately thereafter what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does the Quran Kareem indicate towards? That if you do not do so, then you'll be leading yourself into destruction. لا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة. That do not throw yourselves into destruction. What do you mean by throw yourselves into destruction? How would that apply? That the destruction of one's own deen, that a person would be destroying their own selves, their own deen. That if, for example, today the Muslim, this is a very important aspect that the Muslim community needs to understand, that our masajid, our places of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our masajid, our mosques, our madaris, our institutions of learning, all other organizations, these are as good as we want them to be. As good as, or as much as we as the Muslim community want them to be, that's how they will be. So if a person wants that there should be, or if the community decides as a whole that we should have many masajid, we should have many established masajid, we should have many established institutes of learning, we should have institutes or places where we can also fulfill other important needs of the community. For example, yesterday we heard those that are fighting for the political causes or for the justice system for the Muslims, etc., etc. All the different organizations that we hear from again and again. If we think that they're important, then we will support them, and as good as we want them to be, we will have to also support them to that level. So depending how the community wants and what the community wants, then that is what the result will be. وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِيَدِيكُمْ لِلتَّهْلُكَةِ. As far as the Quran Kareem, the Quran is saying that if you do spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you do support in these different avenues, then you will be saving yourself and your generations as far as your deen is concerned. And if you do not do so, then the situation will be very bleak. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ لِلتَّهْلُكَةِ. At the end, وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That adopt ihsan. Ihsan meaning perfection, that in everything, in anything and everything that a person does. Ihsan in the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as is explained in the hadith of Jibreel in Bukhari, that أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that as if you are seeing Him. And if you cannot reach such levels, then at least know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely is seeing you. And ihsan, as far as dealing with others, what does that mean? That a person loves for others what he loves for himself. That if a person would like to be treated in a nice manner, then the right thing, ihsan, would be that you treat others also in the same manner. And if a person dislikes something for himself, herself, then they should also dislike to do the same with others. وَأَحْسِنُوا, have ihsan. This is what ihsan means. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those that have ihsan. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of the Quran.